This year, HBO released their first series based on the video game Last of Us. It seems like we have already seen a similar plot 100 times before. A zombie apocalypse, survivors fighting the undead and trying to find a cure for an unknown virus. According to the plot, smuggler Joel and 14-year-old Ellie embark on a long journey through post-apocalyptic USA, destroying those who have already been infected by the cordyceps fungus along the way. Fans of the game have already accused the creators of the series of making a poor choice of actors. There were especially many complaints about Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie. Other viewers criticized the series for being unoriginal. Train to Busan, 28 Days Later, I Am Legend. It seemed like everything had already been said in the zombie horror genre. But in The Last of Us, we see a completely different approach to the theme. What philosophical ideas are hidden in the series plot? How does Last of Us talk about power and society? And is a zombie apocalypse really waiting for us? The screenwriters admit that they wanted to make a series not about zombies, but about people who have to make difficult choices during an epidemic. Although it was impossible to avoid stereotypical characters from mass culture, the zombie image has existed in culture almost since its inception. Even in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there is a description of a Sumerian zombie apocalypse. The goddess Ishtar will destroy the gates of the underworld and the dead will be able to enter the world of the living. But the modern ideas of zombies came to us from Haitian and African cults. Haitian tribes believed that with the help of voodoo magic, it was possible to completely subdue a person's will. Then he becomes, in essence, a living dead person. He walks, but completely obeys the sorcerer's orders. During the early 20th century occupation of Haiti, Americans became acquainted with local folklore and then adopted these themes for use in mass culture. But who is the zombie? It is someone who has completely lost control of their mind and therefore lacks subjectivity. The problem of subjectivity first appeared in modern philosophy, thanks to René Descartes, who believed that the subject is the one who is capable of thinking. Therefore, someone who doesn't think loses subjectivity. They are not fully human, even if they are still able to move and eat, because they lack the most important aspect, thinking. In the TV series, the process of becoming a zombie begins with the infection of the cordyceps fungus, which is a real parasitic organism that infects tree ants. In the plot, it causes damage to the central nervous system and tissues of the body. The infected experience what Erving Goffman called losing oneself. This is a transition from being human to being non-human at all social, value, and even biological levels. People lose their individuality, which is radically different from other screen undead creatures like vampires. Vampires retain their individuality and with it a much more human appearance. Zombies, on the other hand, gradually lose everything human. This process of dehumanization is shown in The Last of Us. The creators of the series explore how not only the nature of human beings changes during an epidemic, but also how society changes, making the depiction of zombies very relevant. The modern Italian philosopher Giorgio Agamben divides life into bare and socially acceptable. If a being breathes, moves, and eats, then that is bare life. Socially acceptable life arises when this being begins to follow the order that exists in society, shares its values, and complies with norms. Beings that only live a bare life are not considered equal to humans, and therefore they can be killed without any consequences. That's why zombies don't evoke sympathy in us, because they violate social order. This bare life is what humans have been trying to shield themselves from for millennia through culture, medicine, and technology. In The Last of Us, they will have to face it again. The Last of Us reflects another modern societal fear, vividly highlighted by the coronavirus pandemic. It is the fear that someone will interfere with our physical bodies, whether through chips or spores of rare fungi, and such fears are not limited to conspiracy theorists. French philosopher Michel Foucault proposed the concept of biopolitics back in the last century. He described how the state increasingly intervenes in the health issues of the population, supposedly out of concern, stating that "we will manage your life because it is better for you." The authorities view people not as a society, but as a biological species with corresponding characteristics, population size, average life expectancy, and disease rates. In The Last of Us, we see how power changes when confronted with an epidemic. Michel Foucault, in his famous book Discipline and Punish, hypothesized that the great epidemics of the Middle Ages and modern times created the society in which we live. Social institutions have had to adapt to new realities and develop special disciplinary rules, as Foucault put it, treating the plague with order. In the series, we see a military dictatorship regime supported by the organization known as Fedra. Their task is to maintain order with quarantine zones. They do it as if they have read Foucault. They have established a planned distribution of duties, such as clearing the streets or repairing something. After all, people need to be occupied with something. Foucault believed that work was one of the most effective ways to establish discipline. While people are working, they commit fewer crimes. In the first few episodes, it appears as if the characters are confined to a quarantine zone, as if in prison. The dangerous epidemic leaves less and less room for freedom. This is a special political regime that Foucault called the regime of reigning illness. This term was used in the 17th and 18th centuries. What does it mean? An epidemic defines all spheres of social relations, politics, economics, and art. One need not look far, just remember the COVID pandemic. Zoom parties, lockdowns, social distancing, all these special forms of social interaction became relevant in 2020. At the same time, many norms that emerged during the pandemic will remain with us forever. But not everyone accepts the new order passively. The Fireflies are fighting against the tyranny of Fedra and demanding the end of military dictatorship. Their struggle seems doomed to fail. What can a rebel group oppose to the power of the state? But it is precisely the Fireflies who don't give up trying to find a vaccine for the infection. They understand that power cannot be defeated until the reigning illness is defeated. Of course, in many ways, The Last of Us is a typical heroic story. Perhaps the showrunners have some unexpected twists in store for viewers, but the overall plot of the series is almost identical to the plot of the game and is built on familiar cliches and archetypes. For example, there is a clear archetype of a journey or forced displacement, as Mikhail Bakhtin called it. The heroes go beyond the familiar world to obtain a valuable artifact and save everyone. There is a motive of being chosen. Ellie is immune to the fungus, and her disease immunity could be the key to creating a vaccine. However, the show's creators don't emphasize this point too much. Much more attention is paid to the relationships between the characters and their feelings and experiences. This is where the series benefits from being different from the game. The Last of Us can't be simply labeled as another zombie show. It's a series about humanity, power and society, the importance of freedom and individuality. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.